So who's been caving this month? Any cool things you've been doing? Just give us a couple minutes and let us know what you've been doing. If you, we got a bunch of trips planned for this month for the grotto. If you're planning a trip, wait until, we'll talk about that all later. Just talk about what caving you've been this month, and we'll catch up with that in a little bit. So who's been caving?
Been ridge walking quite a bit. Ridge walking in southern Indiana and ridge walking down in Tag, checking out some old leads, but not anything of any significance.
It's fun to get out there, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you tromp around the snow?
Oh yeah, every day I could. My mom's not in the best health right now, so I missed the best week, but it doesn't get down to 20 degrees down in Tag very often, and there was about a week of solid cold weather down there, so I caught the early end of it, but I probably missed the best week because I was up in Indy to help take care of my mom, but went and checked this old lead out. So what I like to do down in Tag is look for deep caves, multi-drops, and I went and looked at this old lead. If I knew how to show you a picture of it, it's just an incredible amount of water that goes on the side of the mountain. I mean, it's 100% a deep cave. It's just whether or not you can find a way in or not. So rechecked some old holes from years ago, but not anything of significance, like I was saying.
Where at in Tag is this lead that you found, just approximately where
at? Crow Creek Valley.
Crow Creek?
Yeah, where all the best, some of the best, the deepest caves in Tag, most of the deepest caves in Tag are right in Crow Creek Valley, Rawhide, Allure Hole, Youngs Creek.
Oh, okay.
Crow Creek Valley is just loaded with, it has a very high amount of high concentration of deep caves in a small area. There are a lot of 400-foot deep caves, but not a whole lot to go over 500.
Hey, what's up, Donald?
Cool. Hey, I know, Jeff, you did some caving down in Donahue this month, doing that cleanup. You want to tell us about that?
Oh, that was actually right at the end of January, but we had a big cleanup down there. We had a lot of people show up. We dug the flood debris out of the entrance. We did a lot of mud painting over the recent pink graffiti. We probably had about 13, 14 people show up.
Hold on.
And we got quite a bit done. I was down there last weekend and picked up some more trash around the entrance and dug the culvert entrance out a little bit. It was starting to silt back up a little.
Cool. Well, thanks. How many people do you have involved in that project?
Probably 13. Well, at the end of January, it was probably 13, 14, something like that. Then I went down to, a week later, I went down to Kentucky and did a cave you're familiar with, Pine Hill, and then went over to Rockcastle County and looked at Short Creek, or not Rock, but Pulaski County, down outside Somerset to Short Creek Cave as well.
Cool. Thanks. Thanks for doing that, putting that together, and it's an ongoing project. I saw Krista popped on here. You doing any caving this month?
A little bit.
Anything exciting you want to share?
Let me see.
Get out the list.
Get out the calendar. I've been trying to keep track of them all. What did I do?
She went to Wayne's last weekend, I know.
I didn't even end up getting to make it to that one because of my shoulder, which really sucked. Yeah, I did. Well, February I did Fredericksburg, Sullivan again the following weekend. We went all the way to Colossus, and then I was supposed to do Wayne on the 27th, but my shoulder was too bad to go. I didn't even make it to Buckner on Monday either.
Is it getting better?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. I think.
Awesome.
I think we're supposed to go caving this weekend. Yeah.
It's gonna be nice. Yeah, that's this weekend. So anybody else been any caving? Now I know Rob Bloomer down there. I saw some cool pictures. I know you've been trouncing around in the woods around your property looking at some holes. If you feel like sharing with us, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, sure. So far, we got a timber harvest going on, and it's going a little bit slower than we were hoping for. Once they get done, we're going to finish the drive and hopefully put in some parking, and we'll have some access then to the swallow hole there, the Hoosier National Forest swallow hole. And we found Fuzzy about 150 feet off the property line, so we might be able to get a little bit easier access, I think, than parking on the north and hiking all the way there.
Yeah, it's a hike.
So we've been pretty excited about all this and getting things around where it's going to be fun. We're going to be doing some caving.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing with us, Rob. Anybody that doesn't know, Rob's the new owner down there at Hoosier National Swallow Hole, and he's got a bunch of holes around his property. He's been walking around, seeing them steaming this winter. So excited about getting into those and seeing what's going on. So thanks, Rob. We really appreciate it. You're sharing.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else been caving?
Hi, this is Hank. I'm new here. So nice to see all of you. I took a trip to Buckner in February with an old college roommate who we used to go there all the time, and we took some of our kids. So it was
awesome.
It was a lot of fun. So
was it like you remembered it, or a little harder, or smaller?
we also went in December. So
okay,
you know, we went very recently. This was the first time I went through and didn't really get lost at all, which I guess took a little bit of the fun out of it. But
did you do the circle?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so probably the first time I made it around without backtracking or anything.
Cool.
Else. So yeah, it was nice.
Okay, big question: clockwise or counterclockwise? Which are you?
Counterclockwise.
Oh yeah, me too. Okay. Anybody else want to share in caving this month? Nope. I don't see Scott on here. Is Scott here? I don't see. Nope. Well, okay, so I'll go. Welcome to CIG. Just want to let you know, any new people that may not be members, membership requirements. You can go to our website, ciggaze.com, and there's an application there you can fill out. Give us some information about what you like, what your caving you done, what you want to do. There's a button there to pay. It's $15 for a year. It's awesome. Rich puts together an awesome newsletter. Comes out about quarterly, and there's not many newsletters printed out there anymore. And this is it's really cool. It's definitely, you look forward to seeing that in your mailbox. So, Rich and Keith puts that together and mails it. Thanks, guys. You do a great job. That's part of your membership. And then we also under the National Speleological Society, and we ask request that anybody becomes a member, joins the NSS within a year as well. So, and that's a great organization nationwide, and a voice for cavers, and great networking, and some cool stuff. And we're going to hear from other NSS cavers out of Indiana today, and we're looking excited about it. So, Rich, you want to give an introduction real quick of the program we got coming up tonight? Oh, Rich, you want to talk about the program real quick? What we got coming up?
Oh, our program? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Chris is going to be presenting about Jewel Cave. And I was very excited to hear about this, being originally from North Dakota. And that's kind of close. But I'm over from the Red River Valley in Fargo, but it's beautiful country out there. And he's going to do a kind of interesting thing. These guys just got done mapping 200 miles in a Jewel Cave. It's how deep is it now, you guys? How long have you gotten? Much more farther than 200 miles?
We're at 208 miles of cave passage right now.
Right.
The current depth I can't remember what the current depth is.
Oh, well, that's what I was
800,
talking
900
about
feet?
was length.
Like
depth, whatever.
850, 870,
Yeah.
something like that. I'd have to look it up.
Very cool. And that's great news that they're going to be having a couple of years. They're going to be doing the national convention there. So I want to go for sure. That'll be awesome.
Cool.
But, yeah, he's going to present on his take on discovering New Passage and surveying New Passage in Jewel Cave and how it affected his life. Right.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to that. That'll be just a few minutes. Get a little business get out of the way first. First, most important part is caving. So we got a bunch of caving opportunities. Thanks for joining us, Hank. If you haven't caught up on any of these yet, we've got a lot of stuff coming on. Everybody, a lot of caving opportunities. Just want to run down real quick this month. Scott Frosch has put together so many great trips, and we got Sam leading one this month, and got a few people out there. So March 6th, this weekend, who was it? It was talking about Salt's Cave. Is that Sam? Is that you leading that, Sam?
Yeah, Sam and I are kind of splitting that one. We had about 20 people interested in going, so we're gonna stagger out 2 groups of 10.
Cool.
He might have had to go back to work. I don't know. He's at his plant right now, but
Oh, okay.
but yeah, that'll be a great trip. And
So
I think we do have a lot of new people on that one, so that'll be great.
Great. So for anybody that's new, we put events, and a lot of these we're going to be talking about. We don't put the events up on Facebook for you can sign up until usually a week or 2 ahead, just so they don't fill up. And we try to keep new people priority on that, and so that somebody doesn't go sign up for the whole year or whatever. So just we're announcing these. Keep an eye on Facebook page, and we'll be setting up events and contact information as they come up. So March 6th also is Lowry Cave. And that is IKC property down there, new one in is it Washington or Jennings County, one or the other. Different
Jennings,
area,
right?
of course, than what we normally cave in here in Indiana. It's some unknown or not as well visited gems down there. So who's leading that?
I don't know. Who's leading that.
Who is?
I think Sam is.
Okay, Sam is leading that. Okay, so
Sam who?
Sam Ritchie.
No,
Yes.
he's leading the Salts Cave trip.
Let me look at the calendar here real quick. By the way, on the CIGcaves.com, there is a calendar. If you go to the CIG calendar link, there's a Google Calendar there, and the Google Calendar is cool. It has all these things on it. But if you use Google Calendar at home or at work, you can have the CIG calendar show up on there. There's instructions on that page to tell you how to have it come in. Or I have an iPhone, and I just have it on my iPhone calendar. I hook up the CIG Google calendars through that, and it's pretty cool. That is Wes Terrell. Okay, Wes is doing that one. So that one, if you need to contact Wes and you don't know him, you can message me on Facebook, Charlie Vetters, and I'll get a hold of him, or message him on Facebook. That's going to be a very limited. There's not much parking there at Lowry, so it's probably 2 cars, 3 at the very most, if that many. So it'll be a small trip. So if you're new and need some. Have trouble contacting Wes, hit me up on Facebook and I'll get you in touch with him. So those are both March 6th. March 10th is the e-board meeting next week. We got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of cool stuff that we're working on. If you're interested, we're doing that by Zoom. That's open to anybody in the Grotto. Grotto members, if you're interested, get a hold of Rich and he'll send you a Zoom so you can watch. You can watch what goes on. And then March 20th is Sinks of the Roundstone cleanup down there in Rockcastle County. Scott Frosch posted this. Anybody's been to Sinks there, it's a huge trunk passages. It's really, really big passage cave. It's not not, I mean, not real long cave. Well, I guess it's long, but it's so big, it's mostly walking except for places you can crawl off the sides and stuff. But it's a very well-known cave in that area, and it gets trashed pretty badly. They're doing a cleanup down there. If you need info, hit up Scott Frosch, and he can help you out on that. But cleanup on March 20th, sinks and rounds down there in Kentucky, Castle County. March 21st is Shiloh Cave trip. I talked to Scott yesterday. He still has a couple spots open on this. So if you're interested, priority goes to new cavers or people who haven't been before. So, but if you're interested, you can still hit him up. He may have room and get that in because we limit size to 10 there. So
That's a good one, Hank.
yeah, Hank, if you haven't been there, it's a fairly easy cave, and it's decorated, it's decked out. It's really cool. And the dark damp passage is a lot of fun.
You get a little wet at the entrance.
Yeah, get a little wet at the entrance, and you wade through the creek all the way through. But it's a really cool cave. March 27th is EIG's doing a suicide cave trip. So if Jonathan be leading that, and you can check out with them, or if you need contacting, you can hit me up and I'll get you in contact with them. April 3rd, Scott's doing a dog hill trip. That'll be all posted here later in the month. April 7th is our next CIG meeting. April 17th is going to be the CIG vertical training. So we usually do that in February or January. We moved it back a little bit, and we're going to do it outside this year, which would be really awesome. We're going to do it outside so we can social distance a little better, and we can warehouse we usually have it at. They were allowing us to do it, but they were a little unsure. And we just don't want to push that, because they don't want to be, if somebody has COVID there, they have to shut down for, a week and a half or whatever. And they're a little worried about that. So we're just taking it outside this year. So it's going to be April 17th. This is really cool. We got it set up at Porter Cave. So if anybody's been there, the cave has a beautiful waterfall that falls out of it, probably 30 feet high. We're going to have a couple longer lines out there, probably 70, 80-foot rappels. And then we're going to have a couple shorter ones to work on changeovers and for new people to learn how to climb and do changeovers. And if you're interested in learning vertical caving, this is a great opportunity. It's a great time to come. People have gear you can borrow. You can try a frog system. You can try a Mitchell system. You can kind of see how they work, because vertical caving, if you're new, is a little expensive to get into, but you can kind of see things before you do it, and you ask questions. It's a great time to get on rope and try it out, learn a little bit, and this is going to be pretty cool. Outside. Porter Cave is a beautiful cave. It's a short cave. You can go in there while you're waiting on rope.
It's probably the most beautiful cave entrance in the state, as far as I'm concerned, especially when it's moving water.
It has a waterfall coming out right out of the entrance. It's beautiful. So that's going to be great. That's April 17th, the CIG vertical workshop. So, and then April 25th is a spring mill wetsuit trip. That'll be going through Upper Twin, or I don't know about Upper Twin, but Bronson, Donaldson. That'll be posted. Scott will post more on that as it comes up. And then we got a big one coming up. May 1st and 2nd is Hoosier National Forest opening day of caving season. We're gonna do it big this year. If for anybody that doesn't know, Hoosier National Forest has, I don't know, Keith can correct me, but I don't know, there's around 300 caves or so in the Hoosier National Forest land, and they are closed from September 1st through May 1st, and for bats, and just because the state wants to close them. So so it opens on May 1st Hoosier National Caves, Forest Caves, and we're going to do it up good. We're going to go down Hoosier National Forest and camp out for the weekend. We're inviting our grotto over there, Central Ohio Grotto, to come over and camp with us, and we're going to cave all weekend in Hoosier National Forest Caves. So opening day, caving season, we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it hard. We'll have stuff coming up this month, more information about it and events. But the campground we got is really cool. It has actual teepees in it. If you want to camp in a teepee, it has cots and teepees, and then there's regular camping there too. So we'll have more information on that. COG is coming over from Ohio. A lot of fun. We're planning right now on a Saturday to be doing vertical caves in there. The deepest cave in Indiana is 142 feet. I know, don't laugh at us, those out-of-staters down there. But that's our deepest vertical cave, and it's in Hoosier National Forest property. So that's going to be one of them we're going to have rigged up Saturday. We want to try to rig up 3 or 4 vertical caves so that we can have smaller groups and move around to the different caves. We'll do fuzzy hole, and we'll talk to Rob. Maybe he'll let us get in Hoosier National swallow hole if weather's good. That'd be fun. We'll have a couple vertical caves. We'll also have some horizontal trip going that weekend for people that don't do vertical on that Saturday. And then Sunday we're going to have horizontal trips going. Have horizontal trips going all over the Hoosier National Forest area. Some caves you've probably never been in or heard of even. Some cool times. If you're tired of the same old caves, you might have, it's Hoosier National Forest. You're probably going to be doing some wet stream crawls. But it's fun. So it'll be some new caves you haven't seen probably, and a lot of fun. And you get to hang out with people from Ohio, cavers over there too, which is awesome. So that's May 2nd and 1st and 2nd, and be looking for more information on that. So just real quick, May 28th and 30th is Memorial Day weekend. And Spilo Fest is on this year. They're just put up registration. That's always a good time. Louisville Grotto puts that on. A lot of Louisville Grotto people, we cave with them here, so it's a great time catch up with them. So that's a lot of stuff going on, and we've even got a few more in works that aren't even on there. So we lots of opportunities out there. Hit us up if you're new. We'll get you in the cave.
Has any progress been made with the state?
I don't know. That's a Keith Dunlap question. I don't think anything new. You got anything, Keith?
I think we're pretty much just working on them. We will have some caves. We usually get permission for some caves and capers. And
right.
I think they're trying to work out their own admit system. So they didn't take our system. So we should be able to get in there.
Anybody knows we've been liaisoning with them for years now. And Raymond put a lot of work in actually putting together a permit system for them, so that they could use and make it easy for them to issue permits for the caves, and they decided they want to do it themselves.
Hey, I'll tell you guys this real quick. Is just kind of a beware story. But I went ridge walking last week after work down in Harrison Crawford, and walked in the woods about a quarter of a mile and turned around, and you guys aren't going to believe this, but a conservation officer followed me in the woods. Like he was right behind us. It was unbelievable, man. But I heard a couple people got busted in breathing hole, and I don't know, maybe that had something to do with it. So
yeah, I think they're just trying to get things, just make everybody know what's going on, make an example, and so we just need to be patient. Raymond, did you want to share a little bit about do you know anything about that?
I attended their open house. They had a virtual open house, and they are starting to work with they're looking for some cavers. They're going to start remapping some of the caves in the forest, and within the next year, they're looking to have a permitting system online for some sort of access. Now that's the state saying it'll take a year, so it could be 3. But they have been at least somewhat open to it. Breathing hole, you mentioned, we got access to 2 capers ago or capers ago, to go in and have permission to enter that cave, along with some other caves on state property that have been closed for the decades. So hopefully they're slowly moving along, but it seems like we'll be getting access sometime here in the next few years.
You know who got busted at breathing hole?
Who?
I'm asking.
Oh,
Two people got busted in breathing hole. I don't know the details, but I heard they're possibly even CIG members. So
Was it Carl again? Didn't he get busted
No,
a year or so ago doing?
Yeah, he got busted at Langdon's. He paid his
Okay.
ticket.
and I don't know anything for sure. I heard BIG members, but that I don't know. I don't really want to discuss that here. Throw names out.
I guess the cautionary tale is don't do that. It does not give
Yeah.
us a good reputation, and it just slows down and makes it harder for us to get things open.
yep.
Yeah.
It's like any
For
landowner
sure.
relations. Don't go screwing with the landowners because it's just going to make it worse for the rest of us.
Yeah, and just be patient. There is works on the horizon. We don't want to blow it now. So, okay. Well, moving right along, this segues into Indiana Cave Capers. We announced last month the dates: August 6th through 8th at Crawford County Fairgrounds down there. And like Raymond said, we're going to work on getting some of those state closed caves. A few of them open up for trips exclusive on the Capers weekend. So that's some really exciting stuff there. And I think that's kind of helped we've been able to do that the last few years with the state. And last year we had some really cool caves open up that they let us go into. So we're going to work on some more stuff this year and keep posted on that. And Capers, we got a lot of stuff. We're just in the beginning stages of that. But next in April, whose cuckoo clock is that?
That's mine.
Hey, I love that. So next month, April meeting, we are going to have our Cave Capers t-shirt contest. So anybody that has any ideas, come up with some art for the Cave Capers t-shirt. Get that together and email me or Rich. If you just have an idea, you're not an artist or you don't, know how to put something together, text me, man, or hit me up on Facebook. And I'm a graphic
It's
designer.
distracting for you.
Oh, I'm sitting here making noise in my nail.
And I'm a graphic designer, so I'll help. Give me your idea and I'll work something up with you so you can present it next meeting. So maybe you can get your design on there, even though, we'll give you a hand. So Capers, t-shirt contest, we're going to vote on it. We'll see them next month. We'll be voting on those for the Capers. And then hopefully by the middle of April, end of April, we'll have registration up and we'll be ready to go. So we'll be exciting. We're going to glad to get back in our caving events again in Capers. And we did pull it off last year, which was great. I mean, it went without a flaw, flawlessly. Everybody respected the social distancing and did everything they were asked, and it went off great. So we're looking forward to doing that again this year. So I think that's about it we got on the agenda. So we've been long enough. Let's get to the cool stuff. Let's get to the caving stuff. Enough talking. Let's talk about caving. So Rich, you want to go ahead and get things going with that? And
Yeah, Chris, I got you. I've got sharing up there. So go ahead and get going. Everybody else, maybe black out your video and mute yourself, and we can do questions and stuff afterwards.
I'm a fairly casual presenter, so if and I do have my PowerPoint here. If anybody does have a burning question during the presentation, just interrupt me. I'm not gonna be offended by that by any means. All right. So this talk is called Living in the Light of Discovery, Exploring Jewel Cave, presented by me, Chris Pelzarski. So Nice to meet everybody. I am out here in western South Dakota, where we have Jewel Cave, the third longest cave in the world at 208 miles of cave passage. And we're just going to get started here. This talk, by the way, it's a repeat talk that I did at the 200th mile celebration when we surveyed the 200th mile Jewel Cave. So I know everybody here is cavers. I didn't have time to readapt it for an all caver audience, but it's kind of fun anyway. So let's get started. The first question on most of your minds is probably, what is it like in Jewel Cave? And I will, next slide here, I'll tell you exactly what it's like in Jewel Cave. This is Jewel Cave by Natural Light. The old caver joke. Of course, this is also Jewel Cave. So here I have a line plot showing all 208 miles of cave passages. This is located under about 4 square miles of land. So it is a very complex, multi-level cave. It is almost entirely horizontal. I actually, when Charlie was saying that your deepest cave in Indiana is 142 feet, I didn't really laugh all that hard because Jewel Cave has no vertical drops of, I mean, it occasionally has SRT drops, but very minimal. It's quite different than most of the caves around the entire country. So like over here, this is kind of, if you've ever been out here and you go on a walking tour, there's a walking tour that kind of goes around where my mouse is. And 2 main branches in the cave, kind of the west and the southeast. We're going to do a little bit of history first, of course, and I have this quote from Isaac Newton: "If I have seen further than other men, it is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants." And in particular, at Jewel Cave, the giants I'm referring to are Herb Kahn and Jan Kahn. Now, Herb and Jan, they were hardly giants. They're both, I think they're both right around 5 feet tall. And they are primarily responsible for Jewel Cave being what it's become today. Herb and Jan are actually from the East Coast. They came out to the Black Hills in the early 1940s when Jewel Cave was only, it had less than a mile of cave passage discovered. Now, I should note how Jewel Cave was discovered, and this will really blow some of your minds. Jewel Cave actually has no natural known entrance that a human could fit through. What we call the natural entrance, like, or historic entrance, that entrance was actually discovered by 2 brothers in 1900 who were doing some mining in the area. And they were on horseback riding through Hell Canyon, and they heard a whistling coming from a cliff. And they went to the cliff and they felt air coming through a small hole. And having a mining claim there, they got some dynamite, blew open the hole, and entered Jewel Cave. That is the only known entrance to Jewel Cave. Since then, of course, there's been a second entrance kind of blasted into the cave for the tour route, and there's actually an elevator that goes into the cave. And if you were to travel from that natural entrance, I'm just going to go back so you can kind of get an idea what I'm talking about here. That natural entrance is in that little thing sticking out way up in the on the left there, kind of in the top left corner. And if you were to travel from there to the tour route, it would take like an hour and a half. So yeah, when you go into Jewel Cave through the elevator, you are already an hour and a half from where Herb and Jan Kahn started exploring. So Herb and Jan came out here and they were looking for adventure, and they actually were rock climbers. Rock climbing actually got too popular for them in 1959. And that's when they started their Jewel Cave adventure. They had just done a climb called East Gruesome, which was one of the hardest free climbs, free for those that aren't climbers, free just meaning not without a rope, but meaning they climb by their own ability. They didn't use gear that they pulled on. They just used gear to protect them if they fell. They had just accomplished one of the most difficult free climbs in the world, right here in the Needles, called East Gruesome. And they were quite accomplished with rope work and climbing. And there was a guy named John Gill, the inventor of bouldering, who was coming to the Needles, and they said, well, we better get out of here before John Gill, kind of outdoes us. And they didn't like competition. They kind of shied away from everything and always just did their own thing. Jan shared this quote with me because I also started as a climber, became a caver. And she once told me that if you're fully committed to whatever it is you find meaning in, it's impossible to have any regrets. And I've always lived my life that way, anyway. But sometimes you do end up with regrets. And Jan's helped me work through some of those, kind of transitioning from climbing to caving. So we're gonna talk a little bit here about the modern day exploration and the Southwest Splinter breakthrough. This is the most recent branch of the cave that's been discovered, where all the recent major discoveries have been made since about 2014. So here's a picture of the Southwest Splinter. It is a narrow crack like this. This is Ian McMillan, who now lives in Hawaii. He was doing a lot of trips on kind of the earlier days of the Southwest Splinter breakthrough. And the area that we're going to talk about here, this is a map of Jewel Cave from, this is pre-2014. And see in that red circle there, down on the very bottom, right here, there's this little passage here. Everyone knows a cave this size has thousands of leads, or at least a couple thousand anyway. And everyone had been focused on the big cave in the southeast. People were doing trip after trip out there, and nothing was seeming to go. And there's one base camp in the cave at that point, right down here in the Big Duh. And there's a lot of really enormous cave out here. People that have seen pictures of Jewel Cave, you've probably seen some of these large passages. There's places where you can almost like jog through the cave on like a flat floor for an hour. Pretty incredible. It feels well-deserved after going through the miseries, which many of you have also possibly heard of the miseries that the Khans discovered. It's a quarter-mile passage of like 90% crawling. Takes an hour or so to get through. And that's on the main travel route. But I was interested in the West because I didn't feel the West had been pushed as hard. And I actually started caving in 2011 and got into it really quickly. By 2013, I was doing like 2 to 3 trips a week in the cave, some easy, some hard, going with anybody that I could. Anyone that would go in underground with me, I'd go with them. And I just, I became obsessed. And we decided to push this lead beyond something called the VAC. The VAC is up here. It's a passage many cavers really hate. It's called Victory After Continuous Contortions. And it's just kind of wild going through it. It's a bendy tube, and it's got this chert ledge that kind of sticks out that you have to pop your chest through. It's pretty small, like around 8 inches. But at this point, there's no camp out west. All the known, the farthest you could go if you went west was about like 4 or 5 hours from the elevator entrance at a fast pace. So I'm just going to walk you through what once we found this lead called the Southwest Splinter, which is a 300-foot long kind of narrow fissure that just went and went and went and went. And I'm just going to show you the growth of the Southwest Splinter through each trip. So again, the area we're going to zoom in here in a second on the area by that circle. And then yeah, I can't show you the growth of the cave with the whole cave in perspective, but we'll go back to that at the end. So here we go. So there we are zoomed in the vac section, and you can see right on the bottom of the screen, that's where our lead was. And here's one of our first trips. I guess the very first trip wasn't shown, but this is our first and second trip combined. Okay. And then we're like, oh, this is pretty cool. It's getting bigger, getting better. And then it was like, whoa. We like took off in this huge passage to the southeast that we called Pinnacles Expressway. It's like 60 feet tall and 20 feet wide, and it's all walking. And it's one of the longest continuous passages in Jewel Cave at this point. So there we go. There's the second half of Pinnacles Expressway leading to a great big room called Crushing Deep. These were all day trips at this point. These day trips were some of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. Reaching this bottom left corner here, Crushing Deep, right here where it hooks back to the northeast. That's where we turned around on the last day trip. And that was like 8 hours of travel each way, and then like 4 hours of mapping. So big, big days for not a lot of survey, but we'd still survey like 1,000 or 2,000 feet of Virgin Cave. Then we established a camp at West Camp, and then kind of started growing, West Camp, more and more stuff here, adding on more. And it's just growing. And eventually we set up a camp we call Deep Camp. Some of this is, been so much discovery. I'm trying to figure out when Deep Camp even got set up. But we set up Deep Camp, which was kind of down in the lower southeast corner there. And more cave, and more. And still more. And there we are. So this entire branch here is the Southwest Splinter Breakthrough, which has now amounted to over 30 miles of cave passages and many leads left. Some of them are walking. I mean, it's the breakthrough of a lifetime for this generation of jewel cavers for sure. And I'm just going to show you a few images of some of the best things we've found out there. I know you guys want to see pictures, so. Here are Renee and I at a place that we call Jewels of the Deep, this beautiful cascading yellow flowstone down kind of a pit. And lots of gypsum coating on the walls there. Here's a place that we called the Great Wall. This formation, these are 100% spar, these stalactite looking things, or stalagmites. We don't really know how they form. I think Art Palmer has some ideas, but I don't think anyone's really studied these, and they are crystal all the way to the center, which is very interesting. It's not a crystal coating on something. Here's one of my favorites. This is me in 2015 or so in Crushing Deep, one of our favorite rooms in the cave. Got this really cool vaulted ceiling. You can really see some of the bedding on the walls. And, this is right around when we surveyed the 175th mile of the cave. That black spot on the right is not a lead. When you're in the cave, it doesn't even look like a lead. This picture, I think it's like a nodule of chert or something that just didn't reflect light. Here is Blaise Lasala. He was on a lot of the earlier Splinter section trips. This picture is taken near West Camp. Our latrine area is right behind that rock on the left side of the photo. We carry out all waste, liquid and solid. Pinnacles Expressway. These are the pinnacles of Pinnacles Expressway. Pretty awesome. This is like what the whole passage looks a lot like this frequently. Turn up your brightness if you have to see Renee's facial expression on this one. This is Renee out in a place called the Outer Limits, examining some beautiful calcite spar under some nailhead spar, which is what Jewel Cave is named for. And we don't often see examples of spar like this out in this section of the cave. So it was pretty cool to find this. Steve Curtis dropping down a pit. At the moment, I'm forgetting the name of this pit. But one interesting thing of note here, Jewel Cave is a little bit what I'll call cowboy. It really does have a kind of a Wild West reputation, partly because of who Herb and Jan, the pioneer explorers, partly because of who they were and how they climbed and caved, but also just because at this point, Jewel Cave is so remote and so far from everything that when you get out there, you cannot bring SRT gear. I mean, you just can't fit it in your pack. You go on a 4-day expedition in the cave and you got to travel 12 hours to get to camp. I mean, yeah, you don't bring anything extra. So we have, as a group of explorers, we've pioneered a lot of space and weight saving techniques for what we bring in the cave, but it's like absolutely minimal. Renee and I in a really cool streamy looking passage. There's actually stream cobble on the floor in there. This is a neat passage right after the splinter. This is kind of what it opened up into after that 300-foot narrow passage. We were quite shocked, honestly. Here we've got some frost work, also near Jewels of the Deep, coated in flowstone, which is pretty awesome. Kind of a rare thing to be able to see. Carl Burn with another formation here. Colorado caver. And there I am with a really cool gypsum flower. So those are some of the best pictures anyway, and kind of give you an idea what the splinter section is like. And now I just want to share a few exploration stories here. In this section I kind of call shifting into possibility. George Bernard Shaw said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. Others dream things that never were and ask why not." I think most of us as cave explorers, most of you all probably get this pretty darn good, but I've actually had the opportunity to to develop this relationship with discovery that is it's pretty unique. I mean, I've been in on the discovery of like 35 miles of Virgin Cave and Jewel Cave, and you know, not every cave explorer gets that opportunity. I had a lot of things come together, being in the right time and place and being the right size and all that to be able to experience this. And so that's I like to need to put in my 2 cents about discovery, even for those that think they're familiar with it. So here's Jan Con. This is not quite modern day. I guess this picture is about 10 years old, looking at an old map in Jewel Cave. And the story I'm about to tell here is pretty cool. We had we had not yet established our second camp out in the west. We were going on day trips from West Camp, and West Camp is like 4 or 5 hours into the cave. And before we established Deep Camp, we had some major issues, like we had to find a water supply and all kinds of stuff, and we just couldn't make a new camp. Some of you at this point are probably saying, like, what do you mean you had to find a water supply? It's a cave. Well, Jewel Cave is like almost totally dry. It's not the kind of cave most of you are used to. Like, it's a big deal to find dripping water from the ceiling in places. I know some of those photos had dripping water in formations. We've found more lately as the cave has returned to the underneath, being underneath Hell Canyon, because that allows for less of a overburden. So the water is actually reaching the cave, but for a lot of the cave, the overburden's 700 feet, 800 feet, and there's no water reaching the cave at all. And there's no flowing water, no standing water. It's just dry. So we're, need to find a water source. And anyway, after this particularly brutal cave trip, where we just went way out beyond West Camp, like 3 or 4 hours, and came back just totally dejected, like, oh, this is getting so hard. We exited the cave and we called Jan. She's 97 years old now. She was 88 or so in this photo, but we call Jan after every cave trip, because she started exploring this cave when it was 3,000 feet long, and it's now 208 miles long. So she wants to know what's going on. And Herb passed away. Her husband Herb passed away in 2012. So, but we call her, and she'll tell me before we go in the cave, like, well, Chris, give us a call no matter what time it is that you get out. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. And we've called her at 2, and the phone rings, and she answers on the first ring, and she goes, "Oh, good. What'd you find? What'd you find?" And she's just so excited. And she's told me since then that, well, she prefers not to be woken up at 2 a.m. to hear about our trips. However, she would rather be woken up and hear about the trip fresh right as we arrive at the surface than wait till the next day, because we're all so much more excited when we get out. So that's pretty cool. She's a very special person. So Jan and I were talking on the phone after this like really hard West Camp trip, and Jan's like, I'm like, God, it's so hard, Jan. I don't know how long we're going to be able to do this. Like the cave was progressing into a point where like all the Jewel Cave explorers were questioning, can we do this? It's getting really hard. What can we do? And we had talked about setting up a camp before, and a second camp farther in, and God, that just sounded so ridiculous. And so I'm telling Jan how hard this trip is, and she says, Chris, you guys are just going to have to set up a second camp. And I said, I know, Jan, I know, but God, it's just hard, and we're all kind of scared. And Jan goes, well, so what? And it was just like, oh, right. And so at that moment, I realized that reasons are nothing but reasons, and that reasons don't actually have to stop you. So I was able to place my fear and my reason to the side, and we're like, all right, now we're determined. We're going to put in another camp. We did. We established Deep Camp shortly thereafter. But what a powerful woman. She can change the course of history with 3 words. And some of the most simple words in the English language. You don't know if you don't go. The difference between looking for something and simply seeing what's there. This next story is actually about one of the most powerful moments in my life. And, the story kind of begins acknowledging another cave nearby, Wind Cave, which is also one of the world's longest caves. I think it's the 5th or 6th longest in the world right now. It's 18 miles away from Jewel, as the crow flies. And that Wind Cave is over 150 miles now. And, as a newer explorer, I remember passing by a pool, a small pool in Jewel Cave one day and thinking, well, Wind Cave has lakes. I wonder if Jewel Cave could have lakes. And, you know, I'm not a geologist. I've learned geology along the way. But this breakout in the splinter section was new for me, and a new thing. And so my imagination was going wild. Like, what are we going to find out there? And so I said, what could there be any lakes in Jewel Cave? Because there are lakes in Wind. And by lakes, I guess what I mean is here in the Black Hills, we define a lake in the cave as the place where the Madison limestone that the cave that Wind and Jewel are in, the place where the limestone meets the Madison aquifer, and the cave passages are flooded because the limestone dips, so it kind of dips into the water table. And you know, my friends were like, "Oh no, there actually can't be lakes in Jewel, at least not here, because you know they have a map of the they actually have a map of the potentiometric surface and you know, kind of like a topo map of the water table and where it's expected to hit. And they're like, yeah, the nearest place to, you know, where Jewel could hit the water table is actually 8 miles south of here. And I was like, oh well, I guess I'll never find a lake. So then October 2015, there was 5 of us that went into the cave. Dan Austin, Derek Bristol, Kelly Mathis, myself, and Renee Ohms. And we were going to this really cool lead called the Black Temptress. And it was a black hole down below us that we were excited to look like a big room through it. So Renee and I get put on this team of 2, and we get to go to the Black Temptress, and we go through this hole, and the cave immediately drops down like 30 feet into this room. We needed webbing to climb down, and we're in this great big room, and it's like, oh, cool. And then there's this huge funnel pit in the room, and down the funnel, we look, and it's like 30, 40 feet down again, a sheer drop, and we're like, whoa, this cave's going down. And we found a way to climb down kind of in another place in a chimney and got down to this lower level and found complex cave branching in many directions. And it was sloping down, of course, down, down, down. And I started thinking, geez, the cave can't really go down anymore. Because one thing I did know about the geology of the area is that the Madison limestone becomes dolomitic when you get into the lower 2/3. So the cave doesn't really form in the lower 2/3 of the limestone. And the limestone's only about 400 or 500 feet thick. So I knew, like, if we kept going down, we'd be getting to that dolomite and the cave would end. And that's what I was imagining. And so we kind of mapped everything, and except for this downward sloping passage, and we map all these little wings, and then those all ended, and thought, well, okay, let's go in the unlikely one, I guess. And Renee was sketching. The other 3 were on a separate team, 10, 15 minutes away. And we round the corner to this great straight passage, and Renee's trying to catch up on the sketching, and I see a fork to the left and to the right. And I look to my left, and when I look down to my left, I see another black, deep-looking pit. And I look down at it and think, there's no way that that's going to go somewhere. It can't. You know, we're going down too much. So I go to my right, and I say, I'm just going to check ahead real fast. I went straight ahead. It's a nice tall walking fissure that's continuing, and I come back and tell Renee, yep, it's continuing. And she's like, okay, I'm almost done. And well, curiosity got the better of me, and I thought I'd better go at least look at this pit off to the left. So I took a number of steps down this slope, got closer to the pit and closer to the pit and closer to the pit. And I'm looking at the blackness, and all of a sudden the blackness did something unusual. It shimmered. And so I immediately cranked my Sten light to its highest setting, and saw this. And so this is the first lake to be discovered in Jewel Cave. It's called Hourglass Lake. It is named after the Hourglass Sea, which is a geologic feature on Mars. Not water, it's just a dark spot of geology. But the Hourglass Sea, it was originally thought to be water because it was observed in 1600. And later they found out it was not water. But it was called the Hourglass Sea because it was used to tell the time on Mars by observing shadows. And it was the first foreign feature named, the first feature named on a foreign planet. And this was October 2015 when we found this, and they had just announced the discovery of water on Mars. And I thought, this is cool. Here we are talking about water on Mars, and we're finding water on Earth. And it just struck me that there's a lot we can learn. But this moment was so powerful because something that I had been told was impossible was suddenly right in front of my face. And I've never been the same since. Anything that's a boundary in life, I ask myself, is that really a boundary? So that was cool, one of the coolest moments of my life. Renee and I actually took off running. When I saw the water, I yelled out, "I found water!" And Renee says, "What?" And she thought that I had just found dripping water. And I'm like, "No, it's the Madison Aquifer." And she runs over and sees it, and we both start crying. We hug each other, and we take off running, and we're yelling for our teammates, "Dan, Kelly!" And we know they can't see us or hear us, but it didn't matter. And we ended up, the adrenaline just like carried us. I mean, it was like flying. It was the closest thing to the experience of flying I've ever had. And we ended up landing, just stopping on top of this giant boulder. And all of a sudden I look around and I'm like, whoa, I'm on top of a giant boulder in this room. And I don't even remember how I got here. So the adrenaline wore off, and at the end of the day, we got to report this to the other team and take them to show them. And since then, there have been many lake discoveries, actually. There was another lake right around the corner, actually, probably actually the same lake. This is Nate Hughes at a lake called Piso Mojado. Dan Austin at New Year's Lake on the day that it was discovered, January 1st, 2017. It's like 40 feet deep in the middle. This is kind of a fun story. We hadn't been back to New Year's Lake for some time, and we had tried to take a raft across New Year's Lake on one trip, but we were unsuccessful because there was a land bridge that we couldn't get over or under. So we had to wait for the water level to rise or fall to make it over the land bridge. So we left this raft out there, which we had borrowed from Hazel Barton, which was sterilized, autoclaved actually at her lab. And we were hoping to go across the lakes. So it had been about 7 months since we had been out there, and we're like, well, let's go check. And for whatever reason, this one particular lake, the others, this was not the case. This lake rose 30 feet over a matter of 7 months, flooding all passages leading up to it. And so, yeah, we couldn't get anywhere near Hourglass, the old Hourglass Lake. I mean, this is still, or not Hourglass, I'm sorry, New Year's Lake. This is still New Year's Lake, but totally different. And it's weird to think of this like 40-foot tall passage just totally underwater and think, yeah, I've been in there. Pretty wild stuff we find in the cave. There's been science done out at the cave. Katie Bender, PhD student, she's been doing a lot of research out there. Here we are just collecting samples for her on a trip. I call this the totem of science. Adam Weaver in the middle and Katie on the bottom. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit, I want to tell this story that I call To Boldly Go. So in To Boldly Go, Adam Weaver and Nate Hughes and I were exploring together. And we came to this beautiful white passage and we thought, well, this is an indication of airflow because the airflow would cause things to precipitate, minerals to precipitate on the walls. And there was just white gypsum and stuff everywhere. And we looked up this dome that Nate is trying to climb. And Adam says, there's a cool bolt climb. And I'm a climber, you know, so I think about it and I'm like, yeah, maybe it's not a bolt climb. Let me try. Now, one thing anyone who is a climber and a caver might know that climbers, when they do chimneys, they actually tend to face into the chimney to avoid like looking at the exposure. But cavers actually tend to face out in chimneys because they're always like traveling forward. I decided, well, let me try facing out in this weird round chimney. So I started to climb up and I got like halfway up and I'm like, no, I can't do it. Well, Adam watched me try and Adam's like, okay, so now that I've seen you do that, I gotta try. And I'm like, okay. So he does it and he gets like even closer until there's like one move left to make to get to the horizontal passage at the top, right above Nate's head. And the feet just get really sloping right there. And you're 20 feet off the ground and you're way far from a cave with little hope of rescue, or from a entrance with little hope of rescue. And so, yeah, you think twice, you know? So Adam got up there and he's like, no. Well, I'm like, okay, Adam, now that I've watched you make it that far, I think I can make it a little bit farther than you did. So this back and forth, you know, and so, you know, a little farther. Nate is kind of scared of climbs like this. And so there's kind of like the last move, this like really, really wide stem. So Nate's like standing behind me and Adam with this look on his face, like, you guys better not freaking get up there because I don't want to go up there. He's like, no. You know, he was happy when it was a bolt climb. But me and Adam just have this great back and forth dynamic. We're like, yeah, let's do it. And I get up to that final position where I'm stemmed out super wide, like Nate is in this picture. And as you can see, it's like the passage I'm trying to get to is behind me when I'm in that position. So it's very awkward. And I get to that point and everyone's holding their breath and I decide, okay, here we go. And I sort of just jump backwards and land on my back in the passage. And I'm like, all right, this is amazing. You know, this is amazing. I made it. And we're just psyched, you know. And I turn around and this is what I found. A wall. So this isn't actually what I found. I don't have a picture of the wall we found, but it was a dead end. And but nonetheless, this story made it into the presentation. And that's because it was really fun. And the teamwork and the experience of building off of each other was just great. And, you know, the lesson I learned in this was that discovery isn't finding something. Discovery is finding what's there. Sometimes there's nothing there. And that's all part of it. And you have to go through those times. And it's not like, oh, that trip sucked. We didn't find anything. It didn't suck, you know, it was fun. And Adam and I had this great, you know, teamwork moment where we got to work with each other. There's looking down. This really probably conveys what the climb was like. That's looking down it So yeah, pretty scary. We rigged up a piece of webbing to help everybody get up there. The very end here, I know we're probably getting kind of long, and I didn't know how long I had for this presentation, but we're getting towards the end. Probably 5-10 minutes left. If that's not okay, someone let me know. I just kind of want to share some of the silly fun things that we've been through in the cave. So we've celebrated New Year's in the cave. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, you know, when I say we don't bring anything extra, I mean, New Year's is kind of a special exception. So I'm going to get to the most recent milestone, no pun intended, actually pun intended, the 200th mile. So yeah, this was our team that surveyed the 200th mile of cave. And that was really exciting because this is really the first cave to hit 200 miles organically. And what I mean by that is we didn't connect, this didn't involve connecting any caves. This Jewel Cave has been one cave from the start, and it's had one entrance from the start. And so it's pretty cool to reach 200 miles of cave passage with a cave like that. Stan Allison, Garrett Jorgensen, myself, Renee Ohms, Adam Weaver, and Dan Austin. And this was back at the end of 2018 that we surveyed the 200th mile. The big discovery of the 200th mile trip was this incredible flowstone formation that Dan and Renee and Stan found, which this is like the best formation in the cave. And I mean, I think in some ways Jewel Cave was celebrating with us when we found this, because there's been nothing like this. This guy is named Girth Brooks. It's like 7 or 8 feet tall, I think, 5-foot diameter, and just gorgeous. So what an amazing way to ring in the 200th mile of survey. I do have this short video here coming out of the cave from the 200th mile trip. Jan Kahn is in the elevator with us. We stopped at kind of the basement, and she snuck in the middle level before we reached the top level at the visitor center, where there was a potluck and a celebration and a cake. And we actually worked it out so that Jewel Cave could blow out her own candles. We opened the airlock door downstairs, and my thought was that when we got out that we'd have to carry the cake over to the elevator door. But apparently, like, as soon as we opened that door, the candles were just like, whoosh, out. So that was kind of cool that it actually worked, and Jewel Cave blew out her own candles. Now the current day exploration, like the most current, we surveyed in 2019, we surveyed another 8 miles of cave passage. There's still quite a bit of cave going. In 2020 and 2021, we've surveyed a total of 0 miles and 0 feet of cave passage. So that is because there's some administrative disagreements within Jewel Cave between the management and the explorers, and they were doing a tour route reconstruction that started in October 2019, and they wouldn't let us in the cave during that time. And that went until about May 2019. And of course, we all know that by that time we were well into the COVID era, and we haven't been allowed in the cave since COVID either. So we're all just waiting for the day to go back to these leads, but it's been about a year and a half. So it was really a great experience for me to be able to share some of these stories again. It's been actually a year and a half since I've given this talk, Living in the Light of Discovery, and I gave it last at the 200th mile celebration. During the COVID stuff, one thing that's come of that is I've been working on a book. And so I've been working on a book with the same title at this moment, Living in the Light of Discovery. And it's a collection of short stories about climbing and caving in the Black Hills. And each story illustrates a life lesson or spiritual principle. So look for that in the next year or two, hopefully. And with that, I kind of cap it off by saying belief alone will not change the world. It is the desire to see if that belief is true that will create transformation. Find the dark areas in your life and add light, because discovery requires participation. And as we saw earlier, of course, this is Jewel Cave, but so is this. Some of you are probably wondering how to get involved in caving in the Black Hills. We have small caves too. And I don't want this to sound demeaning in any way, but first know that hard Black Hills caving has more in common with running a marathon or ultra marathon than it does caving in some ways. And that's just to let you know that this is some of the hardest endurance caving there is in the country. And but if you're a fit person and ready to do something like that, feel free to reach out to us. We welcome people from out of town to come and check out the caves. Nothing's open right now, so smaller caves are open. But when things open up, log on to our local grotto, the Pahasapa Grotto, and click on the contact us and send us a message if you feel like coming out. Thank you for your time, and I'll be happy to take questions at this time.
Are those gypsum caves? Wind and Jewel?
Well, there is gypsum in them, but no, they're not. They are limestone caves. I know all the white. You can see all the deposits of gypsum. So there's gypsum beds.
Have you seen a map? Sorry, I feel like there's a delay. I didn't mean to speak over you. I think there's a mild delay. Have you seen the map of the Ukrainian cave that looks very similar to Jewel and Wind? It's Optimistica Skya or something like that.
I have not seen that. I guess might have seen a map once or I said, yeah, that's a gypsum cave. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The map looks very similar to Jewel and Wind, just the way the passages traverse.
Sure. Yeah. Before we ask any other questions, I see there's some that came up in the chat, and I'm just gonna get to those. So we answered the gypsum thing. What's the cave temperature? It's in the upper 40s, fairly cold. Potable water, yes, we do drink out of the lakes. Someone would like to hear more about airflow studies in the cave.
Tell us the name of this friend.
I don't know what the best way to get that information is, but Andreas Flitsch from Germany is the main running those studies. So, okay, what other questions do we have?
Can you answer the question, please?
The other caves that you mentioned, the smaller caves that you said are open, I'm assuming they're on private property.
Some of them are, yeah. Yeah, one's in a rock quarry, limestone quarry, and we have a great relationship with them, and we can just go anytime in that one. And that's a 5-mile cave. Believe it or not, here in the Black Hills, our cave, the lengths of our longest caves go from 100 or 208 miles, Jewel, 150 some miles, Wind. And then our third longest cave in the hills is less than 10 miles. So, and until the resurvey of that cave, it was like the third longest was actually like 5 miles. So
No, the reason I was asking is it seems like it, as somebody who hasn't caved much out west, it seems like out west there's a lot more government-owned caves, where in the east here it's significantly more privately owned caves.
Right. Yeah, I would say that's true. And I often wonder. I mean, we do have a lot of private land around here, and I often wonder if there isn't some entrance to a giant cave on somebody's land that they just said, oh yeah, we've never even bothered to look in that hole. You know?
Probably a small crack.
Yeah.
This is the reason for the great length of these caves, because you have a fairly narrow band of limestone, but you have it's very soluble, and you have a lot of joint control, and that would lead to all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. A lot of joint control, fracturing of the limestone from the Black Hills uplift. And some people, I don't know that this has been scientifically confirmed, but people have noticed that a lot of the joints actually all kind of point towards, they tend to point towards and away from the center of the Black Hills, Black Elk Peak, which would make sense if you think about something, bubbling up like that. The fractures would be away from the center. And so, depending on which cave you go in, you get these joint passages that line up like that. It's really neat.
Yeah.
How are the caves formed there?
Maybe Renee wants to jump on and say that, talk about that, because I get kind of confused on some of the long time geology sometimes.
Yeah, it's fairly complicated, but it's essentially, so it's not really a lot of vadose action. It's like slowly circulating groundwater, and there were several periods of development. And so what Art Palmer found, though, is that it's, slowly rising groundwater, but then there was water coming in from the surface also, that when it interacted with that groundwater, it became more aggressive. So like at that mixing zone between the surface water and the groundwater is where there was the greatest passage development. So that's like the super simple explanation, but it was, it took place over, many millions of years. The spar coating in Jewel Cave has been dated to between 20 and 14 million years ago, and it was one of the last things that happened. But the cave started forming roughly 60 million years ago.
Did Art Palmer do work in this cave?
Yeah, he literally wrote the book on it. Like he's really the only one that's done extensive work on the geomorphology of Wind and Jewel Cave. So there hasn't been a lot of additional research done other than Art's work.
I see.
I've got a question for you about the airflow studies. I remember hearing that Herb and Jan Kahn were doing a lot of that. Do you know more about that?
Well, Herb Kahn was, Herb and Jan, Herb was a genius mathematician. It's really funny because they kind of like live in this little shack in the woods with like no running water and no electricity. But Herb actually had like math correspondences all over the world with mathematicians by letter. And he kind of did the groundbreaking work on determining, estimating the cave passage volume, including the undiscovered areas, through measuring changes in airflow at the entrance with a homemade anemometer. And Andreas Flitsch from Germany, a climatologist, he took over their work, and he's continuing that work to this day. Herb, I think, Renee can correct me if I'm wrong. Herb, I think, estimated that we had found around 10% of the cave passages. But Andreas has actually reduced that number and says it's like maybe 2 or 3%.
Yeah,
Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's something
yeah.
like it's like 3 to 5% or something. But like when you're speaking on those scales, it's so mind-boggling anyway.
That's a lot of caves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's places like miles from any cave passage, and you'll hear about a landowner drilling a well that'll have air just blast out of it, and it's like, whoa, that's probably Jewel Cave like 20 miles away.
Are there
Pretty
any
exciting.
plans? Are there any plans to drill a new entrance anywhere?
Not at this time. Maybe someday, but a lot of it has a lot of overburden, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
Is this on federal land or a park or what?
Some of the wells, a lot of those are on private.
Oh, the
They
cave.
just, and we don't even know,
I mean, the whole
if there's
cave.
any cave passage there, right? Just airflow is all we got. So,
The cave itself is privately owned with the elevator?
so Jewel Cave, though, sorry, I didn't know if you meant the wells or
No.
Jewel Cave, but Jewel Cave is a government-owned cave by the National Park Service.
Oh, okay. I see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there any
Over-
is there any property nearby that you could? I mean, is all of the cave that you've found and surveyed, is that all under federal land?
It is all under federal land. Yeah, it is all of it. It doesn't all stay within the boundaries of Jewel Cave. It goes onto the National Forest as well, which surrounds Jewel Cave. So, yeah, there's not much hope of anything like that, sadly.
Well,
It'd be pretty cool.
yeah, put another elevator in. That'd be great. Make your life easier.
I know.
How deep is the elevator?
What
300
is it,
feet.
Renee? 300 feet? Yeah,
Mhm.
300.
Whoa.
Jesus Christ.
The tallest
Yeah.
elevator in South Dakota.
It is.
The lowest
We don't-
elevator. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
What's
we
the
don't have a
tallest
lot of
building in-
high-rise buildings.
Yeah, what's the tallest
see
building
a,
in South Dakota?
No idea. Something
Yeah.
in Sioux Falls, probably.
Yeah,
I
maybe,
think
what,
Fargo
20
had
stories or something?
had one building that was 20 stories, and they can't go any higher because the bedrock is all shale, so they're afraid the buildings will fall over if they make them any higher than that
Wow.
or start sinking.
I was
I
going to
s-
ask a survey question.
Yeah.
When y'all survey, given the horizontal nature, are you guys required to do profile views?
We don't draw a profile at all. Yeah, I mean, it would be so unusable for that
Uh-huh.
cave map. I mean, Dan Austin, who's the cartographer for Jewel Cave today, has made a profile map of the cave, but it's based, pretty much entirely on LRED data, and plugging that into Compass and getting, kind of using the walls feature of Compass.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just such a complex cave. That's like the best
Yeah.
you could do, I think.
No,
But
that's
he did
cool.
spend a lot of time.
The line plots look really cool. It's really neat to watch them grow, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was great.
I should see if I can bring up a profile of Jewel here.
So
Yeah,
what's
it just looks like a bowl of spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it depends on the goal of the project and the goal of the exploration as to whether you need, the profile view or depends on the type of cave it is. So, and the project goal.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chris, there was another question in the chat too.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that here. I got the profile thing up. I'll answer that question, then I'll bring up the profile. So the question was about cooperation with Wind Cave. And I know it's really funny. We all just like gloss over Wind Cave, and it's a 150-mile cave. Now, the thing about Wind Cave is Wind Cave it's way more complex than Jewel, believe it or not. It has 150 some miles of cave passage under 1 square mile of land.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So the reason I personally don't like love Wind Cave is because 1, the passages never get as big as Jewel. And 2, you feel like you're just going in circles. And 3, the survey is maddening because you're just constantly dealing with bad loops. And some of the survey was done in the 1800s. So, you're dealing with like super old survey and then plus like, I mean, it is not uncommon to like enter a small room in the cave with like in Wind with like 8 crawlways, and all 8 of those crawlways connect into known passage within like 20 feet, and they're all leads. And so it's like, it's just maddening, and it's almost always bad loops. I mean, you can't even make a map of that cave. I feel like, and then, Jewel Cave is cool because it goes out, and you're going away from things. Wind Cave is just like, we found another tube 30 feet below that tube. It's not totally like that. I mean, you can get pretty remote in Wind Cave, and there's some really cool things out at the end of Wind. And Wind has tons of potential, and it's a great cave, but it can be fairly maddening to survey in, especially the closer to the entrance, the more maddening it is. And I mean, in some cases, you have like 8 or 9 levels of cave above each, over the top of each other. So,
but we do get along. For your other question, there's good relationships between, and it's a lot of the same people that do the caving at both caves. But it's there's a lot of Colorado cavers that come up to do Wind Cave trips. But yeah, everybody gets along.
I'm going to share my screen so I can show you all the Jewel profile. There it is. Whoops.
Yeah, zoom in on some of that. Yeah, it's like crazy.
So this is why we don't draw profiles.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Holy.
Kind of puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what kind of brain you have, whether or not you can handle that.
And if you fold that twice, you have.
But here you can kind of see why we found lakes. See over here, all these things kind of dipping down, like these little tiny. Turned on the station labels and too soon. That's one thing about a large cave like this, is that if you turn on the station labels, it bogs it all down until you get way zoomed in. But like there's a lake down here.
Wow.
And I mean, this is kind of cool. Like, see how there's this right here. There's like this one passage that kind of connects all that. I'm not even sure what that is. Is that the pound, Renee? Do you remember? It must be the pound, a thing that we found.
Yeah, the HB survey, was it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, so some of these little things that just kind of dip down there at the last second, that's all. Those are the lakes of Jewel Cave.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess that kind of puts it in perspective for all you vertical cavers, doesn't it?
Whoa. Truly amazing. Truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, listening in on your meeting made me want to come out to Indiana. And
yeah, me too.
You guys have some fun stuff planned.
Oh, we got lots of water to play in,
I've been to Sullivan before. I mean, I came out there for NCRC in 2009.
Well, we do the through trip through Spring Mill State Park, and it's pretty much half swimming. It's really great. There's a lot of water. It's a big long stream passage with waterfalls and stuff. It's really a trip. But the biggest project we're working on, and Marion can probably testify to that, is the Binkley Cave project which is, 40 miles, and it's, a lot of
45.
it suck mud. Huh?
45
Oh,
miles.
oh, congratulations.
Sounds pretty incredible. I've heard a little bit about it from Laura Demarest.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's a great cave. It's sinkhole plane caving. So it's the base of it is river caving. And it also has a pretty long history of exploration where there's survey from, gosh, I don't know, started in the 60s, several different groups of old surveys. So it's a line plot that's a big mixture of old and new. And then in later years, we've been finding upper level stuff, which is a little bit drier, still very muddy, wet, kind of you're getting wet, even if you don't feel like you're in water, you're kind of getting muddy and wet all the time. And so, and we're pushing leads that, the old timers, which were pretty hardcore too, we're pushing their leads, with digging, exploration methods, getting more into bolt climbing, which I think will become bigger as that technique becomes more common. And it's not a ton of horizontal in Binkley Cave. Really, you mostly got nuisance pits and things to deal with. So their group is also a little known for ladders sometimes, or bringing in scaling poles and putting them together instead of having to drag the vertical gear, through all this stuff. So it's great caving. I've had fun. I'm in the later stages of this exploration, but it's still going. We are going caving. We have private landowner relationships and have been able to get back in with small groups. So it's not like it used to be really. So we hope you guys get back in there real soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do too. But yeah, that sounds exciting, Marion. The climbing, and with by any means possible sounds really familiar.
Yeah. It's something they're not doing a whole bunch, but the possibilities there. And we could definitely have trips going in different places every weekend if we had the willing participants.
Yeah, that's sometimes a thing too.
Yeah.
Talking people into it.
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed the stories, Chris. It really was real personal, and I like to hear stories of groups, guys having fun together. It's awesome.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. That's kind of been the name of the game. And I can't believe I didn't say that I learned how to have fun from Jan Kahn, but I pretty much, I've always liked having fun. But Jan, that was her life was dedicated to creating fun, and that has to go on.
Yeah, and to hear that at 97 she's still hears about y'all's trips, that's pretty inspiring.
Yeah,
so she's like sitting on your shoulder whenever you go in there, right?
She kind
whispering
of
in your ear, keep going.
I mean, sometimes it feels that way, like it feels like that somehow she can tell us where to go, or she's like a Yoda or something.
There was another question in the chat, Chris.
Oh, okay, yeah, somebody asked how do you travel in an unfamiliar section? How do you route find? So we use flagging tape for the main travel route, but I think most of us just go so much that we just have the routes memorized. And like up until 2019, I had been on every survey trip in the splinter section. So I mean, I think that a strategy is to go on a lot of trips. We've been actually kind of commenting on, like, if for some reason we couldn't go and there's like, new people going, like, would they be able to even make it to our camp? We've wondered that because there's some, obscure little holes and stuff. We've flagged a lot of the route.
And they could follow our survey stations and the map, but it would just take
would
an
take
excessively long time. It
I'm
really
sure
helps
they could
having
make
a lot
it,
of it
but-
flagged.
But if we are on our third camp now, which we call Camp Holy Hell, and but we're not really allowed to officially call it that. The Park Service requested that we call it Hell Canyon Camp. I don't know. It still has the word hell in it. But if you're traveling like 10 hours to get to a base camp, you can't really waste a lot of time route finding, or you just run out of energy and time. So that's one of the things I like about Jewel, is that there's a cohesive team that has to form in order to accomplish anything.
What's the longest time period that you've been in the cave?
Just 4 days. That's the longest we do. We all think that like more than 4 would be like ridiculous. It would be so hard. I mean, one of the main reasons is because we haul out our own, all our waste, and Renee holds the record for the most pee hauled out of Jewel Cave with like 10 liters. So, over 4 days. We're all cavers. We all can talk about pee. I mean, so I think the average is probably like 4 or 5. And then on the low end is like 2 or 3 liters.
Good to hear you guys are staying hydrated.
Well, the thing is, Renee pees more than she drinks. She produces water somehow.
It's strange because we have designated fill up spots where you can, we have dripping water that comes from the ceiling, and we collect it in these tarps, and it funnels down into all these containers. So there's like a few designated spots where you can stop and fill up, and we all fill up with the same amount at those locations. Like, I don't drink any more water than anyone else, and I pee like 3 times as much, and I don't understand.
It's because she's such a good caver, and she doesn't sweat like
I
we
just
all
don't
do.
sweat. Yeah, there you go.
She doesn't sweat it out.
I just don't get it. It defies the laws of physics. But yeah, I mean, we could probably push it to 5 days. It is a park policy that we're not allowed to do more than 4 days. Yeah.
I think a 5-day trip would be hard unless one of the days was surveying like near camp.
Yeah, it would be. We're pretty ready to go by 4 days.
Yeah. We usually, on the first day, we travel to camp and survey like on the way for a few hours. And then day 2 and 3, we go, 2, 3, 4, whatever hours away from camp. And on day 4, all we do is travel out.
So what kind of cave pack are you guys using for those multi-day trips?
Typically, most people do the 2-pack method, which is we use a Pahasapa pack, which was developed by Larry Schaefer, Black Hills Jewel Caver, and they're if you've ever seen like the Flint Ridge, it's like that but a little bit bigger. For a side pack, we use side packs, and then we have what we call a camp pack. And the camp pack can really be anything, but I think most cavers recently have been finding a lot of success with the GGG personal pack. So yeah, kind of a medium-sized backpack, and we like that one because you can easily flip it around your ankle to drag it in the long crawlways.
So we used to use vampire packs. Of course, those things are like unicorns anymore. You can't get them, and didn't know who was making a comparable pack in size.
I don't know what the vampire pack. I don't know about that one. But if you're looking for packs, our grotto actually sells the Pahasapa pack. So if you want to use one, you can buy one there. And Adam Weaver also sells packs like he actually is selling the Flint Ridge pack again now. I think it's not exactly the Flint Ridge. It's been changed enough, and it's called the Onyx Ridge, I think. What?
Yeah, it's got a new name, but Yeah, it's kind of a Black Hills thing to wear the side pack, and you don't really see it too many other places in the country. But if you do a lot of caving where there's a lot of like big stuff punctuated by lots of little small stuff, it's really handy, I find, because you don't ever have to take your pack off. You just dive through a little hole and never take it off.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
used,
you
to,
really
I used to
learn.
use a grenade pack or grenade bag from the army, and that would just come, right on your side. So it was awesome for hallways and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like my first caving pack was one of those, or maybe it was like a gas mask pack or something, but
Yeah,
very
something
similar.
like that.
Yeah, those army packs, they were like $3 at the surplus store.
Yeah.
They popped open a lot though. I had like
Yeah.
a bungee cord that I put around mine.
Yeah, I know.
I think actually like a Black Hills caving skill is learning how to go through crawlways with a side pack on one side and a backpack that you can like shift over to the other side. So you almost have like two side packs. So not only do you have to like, go through these squeezes and stuff, but sometimes if it's like a short belly crawl and you don't want to take off your backpack, if you can crawl through it in a way that you can flip it off to the side and, there's all kinds of like special, very hyper localized caving techniques, I would say. And they really do save time in Jewel Cave. I always kind of, I always tell people, don't take your pack off here. And they're, when we're kind of teaching them in Jewel, and they're like, no, there's no way. I'm like, no, watch. You figure out each little keyhole thing, like, okay, the backpack has to be on this side. The side pack kind of rotates onto your stomach. And then if you go through and then pull the pack through and then squeeze, you figure out a way, and it's much faster than taking any of them off. And add up 30 obstacles like that, you could add an hour taking your pack on and off.
So how tall are you, Chris?
I'm 5'6".
5'6"? Wow.
Yeah.
How much do you weigh?
About 140.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've gained a little weight during COVID and not being in Jewel for a year and a half. So during some of my hardest caving in the last few years, I was under 130, like 129-ish.
That was back when I was in grade school, I think. Who's your lead photographer?
Dan Austin does most of the photography.
Those are really nice.
Yeah.
Is there more pictures on in your Grotto website or something?
We have some pictures on there. I don't know that we have like a photo gallery or anything. There might be some on there though that you didn't
Maybe
see.
we should create one.
Yeah, we could.
Good.
Kind of fun.
It's a fabulous story you guys got. It really is.
Thanks.
Yeah, I really enjoy that as a passionate, and almost philosophical presentation. You don't get that very often. I really, thanks, Chris. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I just love, and like the quote you had, I typed it in my notes. Discovering isn't finding something, it's finding what's there. That's cavers understand that,
Yeah.
That's something that was cool. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thanks, Renee. That was awesome. I really appreciate you spending time with us tonight.
To take that one little step farther. Oh, sorry.
I was saying bravo. That's from the heart and the head. That presentation was exceptional.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to take what you said a little bit farther, I realized a while ago that we create our own reality with storytelling, especially when you may be the only person to ever go somewhere. So if you go to a place, you find it, and then you come and you tell people about it. How will that place be known? It will only be known by what you say about it. And so that's really the nature of discovery that I've enjoyed, is that you can come out of the cave and go, that trip was terrible. And you know what everyone's going to say? The Jewel Cavers had a terrible trip. You can come out of a cave and go, that trip was incredible. And that's whatever you say about what you discover is what humanity will say and know about what you discover. And so it's very important to pay attention to how we tell stories about what we notice.
That's all through.
That's my philosophy.
Yep.
Thanks for engaging everybody. I appreciate that a lot.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks.